The following program is brought to you by the Catholic Diocese of Harrisburg and the Catholic Communication Campaign. Visit us on the web at hbgdiocese.org.
Franciscan Media and this local station present American Catholic Radio, Disciples Called to Witness. Production of American Catholic Radio is made possible by listeners like you. And now, here's our host.
Welcome to American Catholic Radio presents Disciples Called to Witness, a program designed to help you know your faith so you can grow in your faith and share it. I'm your host, Judy Zarek. Last year, the pastor of my parish made a big push to get young people more involved with the Sunday liturgy. He was kind of sneaky about it, and at the end of Mass asked if all high school kids present would meet him in the sacristy for a few minutes. He didn't say why. He just said he wanted to speak with them for a couple of minutes. Once he had them in there, he asked them to consider signing up to be lectors, Eucharistic ministers, or servers. I don't know exactly what he said to them because I wasn't there, but I do know that it made my two high schoolers feel pretty special. With a bit of encouragement from my husband and myself as well, one signed on to be a lector and the other a Eucharistic minister. I really love seeing them take a more active role in the Mass. They get to know other adults that they wouldn't normally have occasion to be around. It's just one small way that makes the parish where we attend church feel more like a true community. And I'm hoping that it's making a lifelong impression on my kids to want to keep going even when they're out of our house and on their own. On today's show, we'll talk to two people who are very gifted at understanding what makes a parish tick, and they're passionate about wanting to make every parish a vibrant and active one. I spoke with Greg Schleder from the Diocese of Toledo, Ohio, and heard about some of the amazing things he's working on in his new job as Secretariat Leader for the Office of Evangelization and Parish Life. And John Feaster spoke with Joyce Donahue from the Diocese of Joliet, Illinois, about how parishes can't just do business as usual if they expect to attract and keep parishioners. And Bishop David Zubik from the Diocese of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, will share some thoughts on what it means to live out our Christian faith in the parish setting. We have a great show for you today, so let's get started and see if you can guess this week's Saint of the Week.
Who am I? It was in my birthplace of Bavaria, Germany, that I first learned of the work of the Redemptorist priests among abandoned people, including immigrants in the United States. Years later, I became an immigrant myself. After completing most of my seminary studies, I sailed to New York, arriving in April 1843. At the end of the following year, I was ordained a Redemptorist priest in Maryland. A new, rich, amazing life was about to unfold before me as I set out to serve the German-speaking Catholic community. My first years were at a parish in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where the pastor was another Redemptorist. We now know him as St. John Newman. He served as my spiritual director and confessor. One of my biggest priorities as a parish priest was making myself available to the people. I spent many long hours in the confessional, but they were never wasted or draining ones. It was my goal to make each confession an encounter with the merciful Jesus, whether I heard it in German, English, or French. I'm told I helped many people turn their hearts back to the Lord. I also took special delight in preaching and instructing youngsters in the faith. My many years in parish ministry in Pittsburgh and elsewhere were the most rewarding for me, but I tried to bring zeal to every assignment my religious community gave me. This included my work with future Redemptorists at our seminaries in Maryland during the Civil War. When a draft order threatened to force seminarians to join the Union Army, I traveled to Washington, D.C. to personally appeal to President Abraham Lincoln for an exemption. We had an amicable meeting, but it ended without any clear assurance from him that seminarians and priests would be exempt from further draft calls. I must say, though, I was impressed with President Lincoln's sincere and friendly manner. For several years after that, I became an itinerant missionary, preaching in English and German in dozens of Midwest and Middle Atlantic states. My final assignment took me to New Orleans. Again, I focused on making myself available to the poorest and the most abandoned among the large immigrant population. My ministry there was brief. Yellow fever was raging through the community. I spent many hours visiting and caring for the sick, but in time, I contracted the disease. Within a few weeks, I myself was dead. The year was 1867. I was just shy of my 49th birthday. Pope John Paul II beatified me in 2000. Who am I? I am Blessed Francis Xavier Sealos.
Studies show that people who pray regularly and practice their faith are healthier and happier. I'm Bishop Ronald Gaynor. I want to invite you to experience a positive difference in your life by visiting your Catholic parish and encountering Jesus through the sacraments. Do it for your family, do it for yourself, and come home. Remember that God's mercy is and always will be there for you, no matter what your situation. Visit CatholicsComeHome.org to find a parish near you.
I'm pregnant.
I can't focus.
What am I going to do with my baby?
My kids are hungry.
I can't work.
I'm scared.
I can't go home.
Can somebody help
Somebody help
me.
In desperate times, there's a place for hope. Catholic Charities. We help families, children, and those in crisis throughout central Pennsylvania, regardless of your faith. Providing help, creating hope. Catholic Charities.
Choosing a school for your child's education is an important decision. Catholic schools have a proven record of academic excellence. Catholic schools have high graduation rates. In the Diocese of Harrisburg, over 98% of our students graduate from high school. Many Catholic high school graduates attend a four-year college. Annually, these local students are offered over $40 million in scholarship funds. Learn more at a Catholic school near you. Catholic schools, faith, knowledge, and service.
This program is made possible locally by donations to the Catholic Communication Campaign and the Diocese of Harrisburg.
I love being Catholic because I love the tradition of the Catholic faith, and no matter where you are in the world, no matter what you're going through, it's something that's always home.
I just love the people, the community that I find in this faith, and I love the sacraments, especially reconciliation and Mass, and I love sharing my faith with others, and faith is best shared and lived out.
I love my Catholic faith because it gives me an opportunity to reach out to others and to touch their hearts in different ways.
You're listening to American Catholic Radio presents Disciples Called to Witness. Our Catholic faith must be reflected in our everyday lives if we hope to evangelize others. In our Sharing Faith segment up next, I'll introduce you to someone who is willing to communicate and witness that faith. Greg Schleder is a man with many talents and gifts, and he uses them to serve his church. Greg credits his parents for raising him to love the Lord and the Catholic Church.
I'm one of 7 children, and my parents really formed us early on to know Jesus Christ. And as Catholics, to even have that language, to have a relationship with Christ in the 70s was a bit unusual.
Growing up, Greg continued to learn more about his Catholic faith. In college, he was involved in pro-life activism and other Catholic social issues. His senior year is when he felt called to do even more.
Coming out of Miami, my senior year, it was a sense, even while I was taking my LSAT, the law school admission test, there was a sense that God wanted me to do something deeper. Didn't quite know what it was at that point. But that found me going to Human Life International and Medjugorje, which opened my heart and mind even further, and opened to the priesthood and Steubenville and Light and Life Foundations there.
After several years, Greg took some time out to discern his vocation. He eventually felt called to marriage and is now married with 6 children. He's the president of Imago Dei Video Productions, which helped contribute to the success of Disney Walden's motion picture, The Chronicles of Narnia. And he's the co-owner of Keys to Heaven, which provides a dynamic online site where people share their stories of faith, and then those stories are set to music.
We're responsible for all aspects in our diocese to be an occasion for people to come to discover their identity in Christ. We're simply wanting to identify intentional disciples, kind of pulling that phrase from Sherry Waddell's book, Forming Intentional Disciples, really to validate and create a kind of a common consciousness of our call to be disciples and to grow as disciples. And media, of course, plays a very critical role in that. Media, to be in between, really is only as effective as it sets the stage for that personal encounter with Christ and with other people. So we very much realize it's got to be integrated with a bigger picture of engagement, ultimately in the Source and Summit, with the encounter with Jesus Christ, with receiving Him, and the various levels that lead up to that summit.
For Greg, faith meets culture has been the theme of all his work.
The pattern for us is really Jesus Christ Himself. He took on flesh and blood in a particular culture, spoke a particular language. He used images and ideas and stories with the people He tried to reach. Catholics could perhaps take a note, if you will, from a lot of our evangelical brothers and sisters who really have refined this. How do you identify language or connect with language that's going to speak to particular groups? As Paul says, I'll be all things to all people to win them for the gospel. Now, he's not being disingenuous, saying I'm going to be a fake. What he's saying is love impels me to really understand and love and appreciate, the unique language and circumstances of people. And I want to understand that so that I can connect them with this, core truth of their identity in Christ.
Greg says that the heart of ritual is relationship, and fostering discipleship is an active, love-filled process. The diocese and each individual parish need to do their part.
I like to kind of use agrarian terms. There's implantation and there's cultivation. And I think the Catholic Church and others, we've really got the implantation thing, or we're just getting that down. What we have yet to really develop are two things. I think, one, how do we cultivate those seeds planted and really discover what it means to be a disciple? Pope Benedict has challenged us in that regard. Pope Francis, in a distinct way, is giving real visual example or evidence of how that's lived, and certainly the other popes did too. But this seems to be Pope Francis's real gift. And the second thing is somewhat even more difficult. That is, what is a community of intentional disciples? Because there's a lot of roadblocks when you put people together, because we have pride and we have our backgrounds, and it's hard for us to die to ourselves. But I think the template is really in Acts 4:32 to 34. The community of believers were of one heart and soul. With power they gave witness to the resurrection of Jesus Christ. In our diocese, for instance, to accomplish this, we're wanting to initiate a diocesan-wide book study using Sherry Waddell's Forming Intentional Disciples as sort of the base for that we can really invite those in the pews, those of us who profess to be disciples, to more fully engage and be open to the Holy Spirit and becoming that, which I think will radiate to the culture around us.
Greg Schleder is doing his best to help families and parishes discover and live their Catholic identities. For Sharing Faith, I'm Judy Zarek.
Choosing a school for your child's education is an important decision. Catholic schools have a proven record of academic excellence. Catholic schools have high graduation rates. In the Diocese of Harrisburg, over 98% of our students graduate from high school. Many Catholic high school graduates attend a four-year college. Annually, these local students are offered over $40 million in scholarship funds. Learn more at a Catholic school near you. Catholic schools. Faith,
our United
knowledge,
States
and
Conference of
service.
Catholic Bishops is helping to guide us in the call to witness our faith to others. They invite us all into a deeper relationship with Jesus Christ and His Church. This week, Bishop David Zubik from the Diocese of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, joins producer Sharon Cross. They discuss how we're called to be a part of the larger Christian Catholic community within our parishes.
In the continuation of an earlier conversation with Pittsburgh's Bishop David Zubik, we're discussing the qualities that help a parish be successful at evangelization. I've just asked the bishop if it's possible for every parish to be good at all those various aspects.
I think in the end the goal is for each parish to grow in those areas. In every aspect of what it means to be a parish. And how that begins to happen is for a parish to truly invite parishioners who have the capacity for leadership in different areas to be trained in those capacities so that they can contribute to the life of the parish. I think sometimes we have a tendency in parishes to rely on the same folks who are very dedicated to do the same thing over and over and over again. But I think that there are a lot of people who have received different charisms. I mean, all we have to do is think about St. Paul's letters. You know, how people have different charisms to be able to use those charisms for the building up of the church. And so I think, you know, on the most elementary level, I truly believe that there are the seeds which the Spirit has planted in a parish, and the various members of the parish, so that a parish can strive to be good at every aspect of what it means to be a parish. Now, that being said, I think it's also imperative that no single parish becomes too provincial or too parochial. That it's important for every parish to be open to other parishes that may be in the geographic area. And how important it is these days when there's a shifting of populations in aspects of every diocese, how imperative it is for parishes to be able to work together. So when you're dealing, for example, with the need for a youth minister or somebody who's going to be good at faith formation, you know, both for children as well as for adults, to have people who are really good at what they do, and that the parishes can have enough resources to be able to secure the services of those people who are well trained. In those instances, it would be important for parishes that are geographically located close to each other to be able to combine efforts.
So that's a good way to start, like the leadership to search out other people who are maybe not using their gifts or maybe feel shy or nobody's asked them or... Exactly, or afraid, or who don't feel that they... that they have what it takes. I'm recounting a very beautiful passage from the Old Testament book of Sirach, where, God's wisdom comes through as saying, well, God recognizes every person he has created as good, and not only that, but God, sees a certain splendor in the hearts of the people he's created, and I think we need to be able to take a look at that as a good beginning to invite people to consider whether or not they have the leadership qualities that can help build up a parish. So maybe people should be encouraged to start to think, if they're not doing anything, maybe start to think about or have someone encourage them to say, you could do something, you might not know what it is. Isn't that a form of stewardship? Uh-huh. When we talk about stewardship in the church, I think sometimes we limit it to only, what are the material wherewithals that people can contribute to help a parish keep on going. But I like to think of it in terms of much broader. That stewardship means people, being challenged to recognize their talents and abilities, and sometimes in their rawest of forms, and invite people to say, wouldn't you like to be a part of this committee in the parish, or wouldn't you like to add somebody to this commission in a parish? Mm-hmm. And I think that the more that a leader in the parish, whether it's a pastor or one of the lay leaders, comes to know the folks in the parish, they can start to recognize what would be raw talent and invite those people to become involved. And I think that that's an important part of the vision of the church that not only did the fathers of the Second Vatican Council have, and so certainly the popes and their post-conciliar documents since the Second Vatican Council, but in reality that's exactly what Jesus had in mind. When he was dealing with the first of the disciples, he saw people there who had the raw capacity, to help build the kingdom of God, to help build up his body, which is the church. And I think we can take an important lead from Jesus, and as leaders begin to notice those qualities in other people and invite them to recognize them first of all, and then to help them to cultivate those talents. Thanks for joining us today, Bishop Zubik. For Call to Discipleship, I'm Sharon Cross.
Studies show that people who pray regularly and practice their faith are healthier and happier. I'm Bishop Ronald Gaynor. I want to invite you to experience a positive difference in your life by visiting your Catholic parish and encountering Jesus through the sacraments. Do it for your family, do it for yourself, and come home. Remember that God's mercy is and always will be there for you, no matter what your situation. Visit CatholicsComeHome.org to find a parish near you.
I'm pregnant.
I can't focus.
What am I going to do with my baby?
My kids are hungry.
I can't work.
I'm scared.
I can't go home.
Can somebody
help
me?
In desperate times, there's a place for hope. Catholic Charities. We help families, children, and those in crisis throughout central Pennsylvania, regardless of your faith. Providing help, creating hope. Catholic Charities.
Choosing a school for your child's education is an important decision. Catholic schools have a proven record of academic excellence. Catholic schools have high graduation rates. In the Diocese of Harrisburg, over 98% of our students graduate from high school. Many Catholic high school graduates attend a four-year college. Annually, these local students are offered over $40 million in scholarship funds. Learn more at a Catholic school near you. Catholic schools. Faith, knowledge, and service.
This program is made possible locally by donations to the Catholic Communication Campaign and the Diocese of Harrisburg.
Next on American Catholic Radio, it's time for you to guess our Catholic treasure. What do we call the cross-shaped vessel that holds the Blessed Sacrament for Eucharistic devotions? The answer is the monstrance. The name comes from the Latin word which means to show. The monstrance is usually made of precious metal and consists of a cross-shaped stand with a central circular container where the consecrated host is placed behind a glass cover. The host itself is kept in a vessel called the luna, the Latin word for moon. These two vessels are round, like a full moon. The monstrance is the way we show the Blessed Sacrament during Eucharistic devotions outside of Mass. Such services conclude with a blessing or benediction. In some places, longer times of prayer before the exposed Blessed Sacrament are held, most commonly known as 40 hours devotion. Another popular Catholic custom is to process with the Blessed Sacrament through the streets of a town or neighborhood on the feast of the body and blood of Christ, or Corpus Christi. In such processions, the Blessed Sacrament is carried in this Catholic treasure, the monstrance.
You're listening to American Catholic Radio presents Disciples Called to Witness. Today on Discovering Faith, producer John Feaster talks with Joyce Donahue. Joyce is the Catechetical Associate at the Diocese of Joliet, Illinois. She's responsible for resources and support for parish programs throughout her diocese. She's held positions as Director of Religious Education and Director of Liturgy. And she's a course facilitator for the University of Dayton. Joyce and John talked about how we all can help our parishes become places of lifelong learning.
Joyce, thanks for being with us today. We're walking through some sense of what is discipleship all about, and I know that you're busy about helping parishes kind of get their faith formation act together. How do we make disciples of people? How do we strengthen people's sense of discipleship? How do you do that?
Well, there's a variety of things that parishes are trying. Some of which involves, kind of beefing up what they do at parent meetings for sacrament preparation, for instance. They will, be more intentional about being evangelizing and working on the faith of the adults present rather than just preparing for a children's event. I think that's a big part. Also, we have parishes that are doing intergenerational catechesis, which means that the adults come with the kids and they learn together. And
adults meaning like parents?
Right, parents,
okay.
and sometimes it really, if they're doing whole community, then any adult is welcome. So we do see grandparents.
Yeah, if they're doing whole community, that's a little bit of insider talk. What do you mean by that?
Whole community catechesis, which is basically intergenerational. Y'all come. It's kind of everyone in the parish is welcome.
Like going after the parish as a group of disciples, kind of as a faith community, rather than this is just your kids have to go to school and we're here to tell you a few things. It's more like bringing everyone together, huh?
Right, and there will be some shared activities there, but sometimes they will also break out into age-appropriate groups, so adults can hear from other adults. So that's good. I do know parishes that put a high value on listening and providing opportunities for adults to share with one another. and to share their needs. So the idea of connecting, developing relationship with people that we have, instead of just having this separate thing going on for religious education that doesn't affect the whole parish. That's one of the great strategies. And I'm going to come back to that strategy a little bit, because it strikes me that a lot of us have ideas about how parishes are almost like way stations for people to come in and get their religion and go out again or something like that. But you're really talking about bringing the whole group into this and having some kind of sharing of faith going on, huh? For Discovering Faith, I'm John Feaster.
This is Judy Zarek here to wrap up this edition of ACR Presents Disciples Called to Witness. When I got out of college and began a career in media production, one of the things I was most happy about was that I didn't have to come home and do any homework at the end of the workday. I could just relax and do whatever I wanted without worrying about tests or quizzes. Of course, those school things were replaced with work worries. And I found that to stay current with what I needed to know for my job, I still had to do some learning on my own. I couldn't always find time at work to learn something new. I still had to do some homework. I think we sometimes forget that our faith journey is similar and that we should never stop learning just because we're not in school or class. When I left my Catholic grade school to attend a public high school and college, learning anything new about my faith kind of stopped too. I still went to church every Sunday, but really learning anything outside of church wasn't happening. It wasn't until I got involved with some Bible studies and Christian groups in college that I began to make time to learn something new. I was amazed at the lack of understanding that I had about why I did what I did in church. I realized that if I want to continue to grow in my faith, I can't stop finding ways to learn more about it. I can do it on my own, but doing it along with my parish community is an even richer and more fulfilling way to continue my journey. I think I'll be checking out what's going on in the next few months that I can plug into at my parish. Maybe you can do the same. You might just learn something new. You can find ACR archive programs and more on the web at productions.franciscanmedia.org, where you can contact us and also meet our production team: Sharon Cross, John Feaster, Ron Riegler, Chris Holmes, Father Dan Anderson, and our executive producer, Matt Wilgoss. Music for our program was composed and arranged by Bobby Fisher. I'm Judy Zarek. Join me next time for another edition of American Catholic Radio Presents Disciples Called to Witness.
American Catholic Radio, Disciples Called to Witness, is produced by Franciscan Media, a ministry of the Franciscan Friars of Cincinnati, Ohio.
This program was brought to you by the Catholic Diocese of Harrisburg and the Catholic Communication Campaign. Visit us on the web at hbgdiocese.org.